The Vietnam War is one of the most striking examples of how a determined small nation can challenge and ultimately defeat a global superpower. It began in the shadow of colonialism. For nearly a century, Vietnam had been under French rule. But after World War II, a nationalist and communist-led movement under Ho Chi Minh declared independence. When the French tried to reassert control, they were shocked by the fierce resistance. At the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954, Vietnamese fighters defeated the French, forcing them to withdraw and ending almost 100 years of colonial rule. Vietnam was divided into a communist north and a US-backed south, setting the stage for one of the longest and most controversial wars of the 20th century. For the United States, Vietnam was about stopping the spread of communism. American leaders feared the domino effect, believing if one Southeast Asian nation fell to communism, others would follow. By the early 1960s, the U.S. was deeply involved, first with advisors, then with combat troops. At its peak, more than 500,000 American soldiers were in Vietnam. With their advanced technology, helicopters, jets, and massive firepower, the U.S. believed victory was inevitable. But they were fighting a very different kind of war than they were used to. Vietnamese forces, known as the Viet Cong in the south and the North Vietnamese Army in the north, fought a guerrilla war. They avoided large, set-piece battles and instead used ambushes, traps, and intimate knowledge of the dense jungles. They dug an elaborate network of tunnels to hide, store weapons, and launch surprise attacks. The American military could bomb entire regions, but often couldn't find their elusive enemy. Every village could be a battleground, and every farmer a potential fighter. This asymmetry slowly drained U.S. morale. Meanwhile, television brought the war into American living rooms. Night after night, people saw images of burning villages, crying children, and body bags returning home. The more America escalated, the more the anti-war movement at home grew. College campuses erupted in protests, and public opinion turned sharply against the war. Vietnam became not just a military struggle, but a political one, dividing American society and eroding trust in government. In Vietnam, the costs were catastrophic. Millions of civilians were displaced or killed. Yet the determination of the Vietnamese fighters never wavered. The 1968 Tet Offensive, a massive surprise attack on cities and bases across South Vietnam, shocked Americans. Although militarily repelled, it proved that the enemy was far from defeated and that the war would not end quickly. Gradually, U.S. leaders began to withdraw troops and shift the burden to South Vietnamese forces. Finally, in 1975, North Vietnamese tanks rolled into Saigon, capturing the capital and ending the war. Helicopters evacuated the last Americans from the U.S. Embassy rooftop. Vietnam was reunified under communist rule, and the mightiest military on earth had failed to achieve its objectives. The war cost the lives of over 58,000 American soldiers and millions of Vietnamese, leaving deep scars on both nations. The Vietnam War taught the world that technology and firepower alone cannot guarantee victory. It showed how local knowledge, determination, and political will can outlast even the strongest opponent. It also reshaped American foreign policy, making leaders far more cautious about sending troops into long, unwinnable wars. To this day, Vietnam stands as a powerful reminder that a small, determined nation can resist and overcome a superpower when fighting for its own land, its own future, and its own identity.